Someone says, "Tell me about earthships, damn it." Okay. Yeah. So I built an earthship, and it was just. I still own it. It's still out there in the desert. But I was in San Francisco, and I was working for this skeevy guy. I think you can probably guess his ethnicity. And he screwed me over out of a ton of money. And so I was just sitting there in one of the most expensive cities in the world, screwed out of tens of thousands of dollars that I thought I was going to be getting. And with not any, and I was working like temp jobs just because I didn't have any money. The rent there is horrendous. My parking space, was more. The rent for my parking space was more than rent at some of the apartments that I've stayed at. And it's in a moment of, I was just like, you know what, fuck it. In a moment of fuck it, I sold off a bunch of my shit that I didn't care about anymore, and I decided to build an earthship in the desert. So I bought like this land in the middle of fucking nowhere. So this is part 2, basically. The bunker is like part 2. I learned a lot fucking up hardcore doing the earthship thing. I realized my limits there. And so I was going to do an earth bag house. And if you don't know what that is, you get polypropylene bags. It's like these plastic bags. And the bags themselves are, pound for pound, are stronger than steel. But there's a lot of limitations. Like, they're stronger than steel, but it's also thin. You can just poke it with a knife and rip the bag right open. But and they're also not UV sturdy. Like, if you leave them out in the sun, they'll disintegrate. But what you can do is you can use these bags like sandbags. You just fill them up full of sand, which is perfect when you're in the desert because you've got an unlimited supply of sand. And you can just build, like they're bricks, build a house, and you just kind of smear like a coating over it so that the sun doesn't get to it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna fucking do that. And my girlfriend at the time was gonna come with me. She later changed her mind when she saw how middle of nowhere it was and everything. So I was just out there alone for about a year building this fucking thing. And it was kind of a nightmare. It was kind of a nightmare. It wasn't so bad so when I first got up there, because it was the high desert. And the high desert in the winter, it snows. And not just a little bit, like it snows. Like there's I think we got like one storm, we got almost a foot of snow. And then in the summer, it's like a million fucking degrees. So it's like you need to be able to you need to build something that can withstand extreme temperatures in both directions. And then on top of that, I didn't have a well, and I didn't have the fucking $20,000 to $50,000 it would take to drill deep enough to get to, any kind of water source in the desert. And so I was hauling water. So I had this truck. I had to go fill up this giant water tank and drive it back out. And you just had to do that every so often. And I did that for like about a year until 1 week I had built a evaporative cooler out of like computer parts and some other shit, and it worked okay. But the problem was there wasn't enough ventilation. I was just getting like really, it was just adding humidity and making it worse. And one day there was this week where I'd killed something like 4 rattlesnakes, and each of them had almost bit me. And if one of them had got me, there was a very real chance I would have died trying to get to a hospital, because I was so far away that even if like immediately and very calmly, which I probably wouldn't have been very calm, right? But if I immediately had just got in my truck and started driving to the nearest hospital, I probably would have not made it. And I was thinking about this, and I was sitting there sweating my balls off. And I was talking to my buddy, and he just said, dude, just, you tried. No one thinks any less of you. In fact, they think you're awesome for trying something crazy like that. Just, you hate it. Just leave. And I was like, yeah, I kind of hate it. and I left. And it's still out there. It's still out there. And I sometimes think about going out there and try to renovate it a little bit and make it work as an emergency, like a bunker to my bunker. But man, it's just it's just a hard place to survive. And you could do it. And I still own the land. I paid the taxes on it and everything, and which isn't much because the land out there is worthless. That's why I got it, because it was so cheap. So yeah, any venom is $20,000. Someone said yeah, that's right, and it's really hard to get, and it could be more than that. And there's no guarantee that it even works. And all those snake bite kits, they don't work. Like the ones that I bought one thinking they work, but it's just like the suction cup thing that if you get bit by a snake, you suction this. It's kind of like a syringe onto your snake bite, and you pull the syringe like it's supposed to suck out the venom. Those don't work. So there we go. Let's see here. That's amazing you tried. Always wanted to do that. Coming into a lot of cash this year. Might do one too. Yeah, I would. If you're going to do it, maybe not the desert. I mean, the cool thing about the desert, because another thing I was doing was papercrete. And papercrete is a very interesting material to build with. But you have to do it in the desert, because it wouldn't last very long in like a humid area. But it's so dry in the desert, it holds up pretty well. And there's actually like a lot of earthships made out of papercrete in Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, and they hold up pretty well. I mean, some of these have been up since like the 60s and 70s, and they're still good. But it's really, really, really cheap to build with papercrete. Dang, haven't spent much time in the desert. Sounds awful. Fuck the heat. I got Nordic roots. Yeah, I mean, the heat's not the best, but I like it. I really enjoy it. I like the wildlife here. I like that it's dangerous. I like that when I walk outside, especially during the summer, there is about 5 different things out there that can send me to the hospital. And then there's, on top of that, even the good plants that I'm growing on purpose, some of them can send me to the hospital and or give me a seizure at the very least. And they're all spiky. Basically, everything's trying to kill you. And you might think to yourself, why would that be good? That sounds terrible. I don't know. It just keeps me alert. It keeps you alert. Like you're not complacent when you know that there's giant fucking hornets that kill tarantulas. I mean, fucking some of these things scare. Like the first time you see these things, man, like there's these giant black. They're about. I mean, they might be bigger than murder hornets, and they're all black, and they got like these orange wings, and they're big enough to go down and kill tarantulas and like carry off their bodies. And I got one of those stuck in my house last summer. That was fun because I looked up. I didn't know what it was at first, and I looked it up because I was just like, "What the hell is this thing?" And no, not carpenter bees. Carpenter bees are fine. Those are out here too. Like the time of the big black carpenter bees. Yeah, they're about the same. They're a little bit bigger than the carpenter bees. The big black carpenter bees, those are scary, but they don't they rarely sting people. So they're all over the place flying around, and I don't like it when I see them, but I'm not too worried about it either. These guys, these hornets, I looked up on Wikipedia to see like, okay, well, what is this thing? Because it was I had it in a room. I had it like isolated in this room. And I was like, okay, before I just go in there and fucking murder it, is it something that I should just let out? Like, what does it do? Because that's the other thing too, is when you live in a place like this with all this weird wildlife, it gives you the opportunity to learn about all these different things. And everything gets a million times less terrifying once you know what it is and what it does. Like you might see something like, oh my God, what the hell is that? It looks like it can kill you. And you look it up and it's harmless. In fact, it's good because it eats the bugs that maybe can kill you. So in this case, in Wikipedia of all places, it described the pain as I forget what it was. It was like saying that people often just immediately start screaming and pass out. Like but the description in Wikipedia was just like, oh my God, like, that sounds terrible. And so I killed it, and I didn't think twice about that. But you got those things flying around, and you've got snakes all over the place. All the snakes the only snakes I get rid of are the rattlesnakes that are on my property or close to the house. If there's a rattlesnake close to the house, sorry, buddy, you're going down. I just don't want to walk out one day and not see you because they're territorial. And so if he's around today, he's probably going to be around another time, and you might not see him next time. And I'm in a similar situation, whereas I'm far enough out to where I don't know if I'd make it to a hospital. So let's take a look here. You should rent it to the Blackpilled army. Better source of income than the donations. Yeah, well, we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see what condition our union is in over this next few months, weeks, years. I don't know what to expect. I really don't know what to expect.